Welcome back to Anime Lockdown. It is my pleasure to introduce everybody to voice actor Kyle Hebert. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. But
So
right now, the music is louder than you.
the music should be off now. Let me fix that. There you go.
There it is.
My apologies. There's a lot of moving parts that people aren't seeing here.
Well, hey, like an actual con, there's going to be audio, video, tech glitches, and that's part of the experience.
It's all intentional. We wanted to give people the most realistic experience here.
Yeah, now we need to add the feedback and plugging in the mics and loud pops that people freak out over.
I can
turn it down.
Don't tempt me. So
okay.
So I wanted to start this out just to, I guess, talk about how things have changed with you since the current events. I imagine that the way that you do your job has altered a lot.
The entire industry has changed overnight, and it's been wild. We now live in a time, even if this goes away, we can look back in history and go, there was this time where hugging or handshakes or being close to one another at a concert or at a movie or any sort of public event, restaurants was bad, was like risky behavior. And now the voice acting industry, in general, is one of the industries that has been able to kind of just forge ahead. There has to have been a evolution kind of overnight, technology-wise, for a lot of voice actors who are used to recording auditions from home, but a lot of people have had to make upgrades to their home recording setup because now we're dubbing anime, we're recording games, people doing cartoons and people doing commercials and all these different types of projects. And then being able to have the clients listen in real time and monitor in full digital quality has had a lot of people having to upgrade, their microphones or their amplifiers, and using programs such as Zoom or Skype to monitor audio or video, and then a nice digital clean signal going through a program like Source Connect. And there's other ones out there too. But Source Connect, at least for everyone I know in the Los Angeles voice actor community, have been using the various, paid and free versions in order to get things done. And that's it's been kind of a learning curve for some people. I have not experienced a lot of glitches on my end. I've done 4 or 5 sessions this way, and I like it. I've got a good, strong internet signal plugged in with the Ethernet cable because Wi-Fi is a little spotty. So yeah, things are going good from my end. Your mileage will vary depending on what a voice actor you'll talk to next after this, but for me, it's been a good change. And if anything, we're going to be spoiled. When the studios open back up and people come back in, first of all, everyone's going to be too nervous to go back in. But eventually it's like, hey, I'm spoiled. I like being able to just pop into my little booth space at home and record something as opposed to putting on clothes, hopping in the car, going to, across town or whatever. So, yeah.
I imagine some people will try to continue that trend, and depending on what kind of pull they have, that may or may not work. I guess I'm curious if you want to talk about it, what your home setup is like. I know some voice actors I've seen have purchased whisper rooms, which are portable VO booths. Do you have a similar setup like that?
I have a walk-in closet, believe it or not, and it is dead sounding enough to, between the clothes, the pillows, the boxes, and some acoustical foam on the walls. My space sounds good. It passed the test. I've have several engineers kind of monitor live, and then I've pre-recorded tests, and they said, you sound great. So I'm using, these are expensive toys, by the way. The microphone is a Neumann TLM 103.
Excellent.
And that's roughly $1,000 or a little more. Yikes. I've had it for a couple of years. And I put these things on credit cards, by the way. I'm not rich. Voice actors, by and large, are not just money, money, money everywhere. A lot of us are just getting by just enough. I recently upgraded my preamp, which the microphone has to be powered by
Mm-hmm.
in order to, as opposed to a USB mic that you just plug and it's ready to go. My microphone is a regular XLR plug, so that needs to go into the preamplifier. And I upgraded for my Scarlett 6i6. A lot of people have been using this from the company Focusrite, and these are great preamps. It gets the job done. I was recently going to some seminars online where a lot of the engineers we work with in multiple studios were saying, if you can afford to upgrade, here's some different options. And I looked at one that a lot of people who have made upgrades were going with, and it's called the Apollo Twin X, and it uses a Thunderbolt connection. And some people get confused over Thunderbolt or USB-C because they look very similar. But I have an older Mac, so I have my Thunderbolt 3 connection going into a Thunderbolt 2 adapter going into my iMac, and I record on Adobe Audition software. I have Audacity, but I got talked into spending the subscription fee of, what is it, $21 a month, I think, to Adobe
It's around
for
that.
their program. Yeah, and I love Adobe Audition. I love visually and the tweaks you can do. Audacity is great if you can't afford any sort of upgrade, and that's what I've been doing for ever since I moved to LA in the mid 2000s. Was work with Audacity, and I gotta say, if people can afford, there's multiple programs out there. There's Reaper, and of course, there's Pro Tools, the granddaddy of them all. But that's just too overwhelming for me.
It is.
So I stick with a little more basic stuff.
I would imagine with your radio background that Adobe Audition was a fairly easy transition, because I would assume that you're used to using Cool Edit, probably?
We did have Cool Edit in the radio days. Yeah, I first learned radio production with physical reel-to-reel tape.
Oh.
So edits with a razor blade and splice tape, and taking a grease pencil and mark your edit points. So when we got to a digital editor, boy, that's just night and day difference.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I don't want to geek out too much about audio. It's my passion. It's my career. I could talk about it with you all day, but we'll get into some anime related questions, voice actor related questions. People in the chat, if you do have questions for Kyle, please leave them. Tony will make sure that they get to me. But we did get a couple voicemails, so I want to play those first.
Sure.
Hey, so this is my question for Kyle Hebert. I was wondering, what is the voice character that he gets most recognized for on the street? Like when somebody recognizes him, who is it that they usually associate him with? Thank you.
Were you able to hear that?
All right. I sure did. Thanks for the question, man. I normally don't get recognized, pardon me, in public. That is not the COVID cough, by the way. Clearing one's throat is not the same thing. Anyway, I don't tend to get recognized in public unless people have maybe seen me at a convention or whatnot. I've only been spotted once where someone heard me talking at one table over at an IHOP once. And it's like, are you Kyle Hebert? By the way, folks, Kyle Hebert is the actual pronunciation, not Herbert. Hebert is pronounced Hebert. I'm from Louisiana, so it's a French thing. What I tend to get recognized most for in general, though, people are say, hey, you're the narrator, DBZ. Like, yes, next time on Dragon Ball Z. That's the voice I am most, between that and Gohan, adult Gohan. And then that career has literally opened doors to all these other shows and properties. Naruto, Bleach, Street Fighter, Gurren Lagann, Fire Emblem, little bit parts here and there through the Final Fantasy series, Resident Evil, all over the place. And yeah, it all goes back. I mean, people come through the autograph. They did come through the autograph lines at actual conventions for various things. A lot of Bleach fans, a lot of Naruto fans, tons of DBZ fans. And then nowadays, I've been doing video shout outs, and almost everyone wants me to do the DBZ narrator. Like, wish me happy birthday as the narrator. Like, next time on Dragon Ball Z, Joe turns Super Saiyan.
Oh my God. I'm guilty of that. I asked you to do the narrator voice for the convention, and I really appreciate that. You knocked it out of the park.
Well, thank you.
We have one other voicemail, and then it looks like the chat questions are starting to pour into the Google Doc. So I'm going to play this question, this voicemail.
This is a question for Kyle Hebert. What was the funniest moment while voicing Soda in Danganronpa and Escanor in Seven Deadly Sins?
Soda and Escanor. Oh, yes. Those are properties I haven't listed yet. This is a first world problem. I've recorded so much, I forgot what I've done. I don't remember things in particular to characters per se, because I do record a lot of stuff. Generally, the sessions are very lighthearted and relaxing and comfortable. I work with wonderful directors on these things. I do believe I worked with Tony Oliver, who directed me on Gurren Lagann.
Oh, nice.
For the Danganronpa game as Soda. And, usually we don't get to read the scripts in advance. So we're seeing pretty much a cold read when we're in the session. And, we're blowing lines left and right, and in between takes, we're making little jokes here and there, but we're also being professional. We're always we always want to give the client, and of course, ultimately the fans, something that they can be proud of and represent the art in its best possible form as you're transforming it for a worldwide or English speaking audience. With Escanor, I've been working with Chris Kaysen, who was Gluttony on Full Metal Alchemist. And he's a blast. We both just chum around all the time. We're both big Kiss fans growing up. So we're trading Kiss stories and trivia back and forth. And we're big hard rock fans. So we're doing that. And we're big horror movie buffs. Golly. Unfortunately, no, there's nothing in particular to the character other than, Kaysen explaining to me that it's like, you got like the big daddy Sin in Seven Deadly Sins. It's like, whoa, wow. It's like, oh, here's the even cooler part. He's got two versions. It's like, all right, he's a big, strong guy, but he's also a very wimpy guy too. It's just very kind of sort of quaint and timid and all that. And then who decided that? And then he almost becomes the DBZ narrator. It's like his muscles have muscles. His abs have abs. He doesn't have a 6-pack. He has a 12-pack.
Oh, Jesus.
So.
You kind of touched on something that I was going to ask you, so might as well do it now. You talk about how you're getting the scripts oftentimes right before that you're starting. So I imagine that a lot of times it can be difficult if there's a particularly ridiculous line. One that I stumbled upon while preparing for this was the multiple licking scenes in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I guess my question to you is, what are some things that you do to be able to deliver those types of lines without bursting into laughter and taking, an extreme amount of time to record them?
Well, the cherry licking scene, it's just unavoidable, where when I first saw it, it was the Japanese version, and I saw it, on memes and everything long before I recorded it, because the first Stardust Crusaders episodes came out kind of like a test run, the first few episodes. So the people knew that if we picked up the whole series, this is who the cast was. I was Kakuin. And the cherry licking scene, I was like, how are they going to do this in English? Because I didn't know what that meant. It's like, so the English dub script says lick multiple times, lick, 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 lick. And it's hard to do, really fast without laughing. So I cracked Tony up too. Tony Oliver directed that show as well, and that is definitely memorable because it's so weird and dare I say, creepy.
Well, it looks like we've got a bunch of questions from the chat, so I'm going to go to those now. The first one that we have, I believe it's Dekana, says, which was the hardest character that you've had to say goodbye to?
Well, one that immediately pops to mind, even though it was 8 episodes, is the great Kamina from Gurren Lagann.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like it's not really spoiler territory anymore when the show's over a decade old, but
Sure.
let's just say he's taking a permanent vacation. And I found out when I recorded the very first episode, I was like, "Oh, I got a main character again. This almost never happens." And Tony Oliver's like, "Don't get too attached." I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, he's we're gonna lose him in the first third of the series." I'm like, "But it's like, good news, he's a fan favorite." Like,
Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, that was a little emotional because it's like, oh man, this guy is so cool. And I've heard since then so many fans found it hard to keep watching that show because it's like, you took like the coolest guy out of the equation. What is the? It took me a while too. I didn't even get too far past that watching one. I still haven't finished the show. I know. How dare you, Kyle? But just not enough hours in the day. I got far behind, but I stopped after, because I like hearing my performance. A lot of actors hate hearing themselves, but I like hearing it in the final mix because I love hearing everything put together, everyone's performance and all that. And I got to say, I'm a little biased, but no, the dub cast on that is really, really solid and great performances. And for those who aren't familiar with the dub process, we record one actor at a time. So if you can make it sound like these people are having a normal conversation within a few feet of each other, and meanwhile people are recording hours apart solo in the studio, the director is like the conductor of the orchestra. He's the one putting the jigsaw pieces together and keeping it all in mind. It's like, well, how did Michelle Ruff do Yoko in this scene? Like, if we have it recorded, then we could kind of get an idea and gauge, but normally we're watching the Japanese performance and all that. And I was asked to scale up the voice higher in pitch than the Japanese one, and remember seeing a lot of negative flack when the dub first debuted on Sci-Fi Channel. And remember LiveJournal? LiveJournal had a dub community for Kamina or for Gurren Lagann, and they said, "Good, the dub voice is all wrong. He doesn't sound manly enough." And when we were recording, they told me, Aniplex told me that, this character is 17 years old. He doesn't need to sound 40.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
Right. So I simply went with my my go-to teen voice, which is my own, I guess, even though I'm definitely not a teen. I'm 51 in June.
Oh.
But yeah. I got my young voice is pretty much Gohan, which is pretty much Kiba, which is pretty much
well, you
recycle it, and now Fat Gum. That's the most recent Gohan-esque, Kamiya-esque.
I think we've touched on most of the people that are in the. I made a graphic with 8 characters that you voiced, just so people had some reference, and I think we've named most of them so far. I don't expect anybody to name Hana Yama from Grappler Baki, but you never know.
Yeah, and the irony is, in the past few years, you had Baki come back, and I recorded a small 1 or 2 episode arc character. I guess he's from New Orleans or something. He's got like a New Orleans accent, kind of. I forgot the guy's name.
It's Spec.
Spec. There you go. I knew you would know. I told the director, and he had no idea. I said, back in the day, when I was recording in Texas with Funimation, I was Hana Yama. And he said, "Wow, really?" But Hana Yama was already cast. So.
Oh, I was curious if you had auditioned for Hana Yama in that situation. Oh, okay.
I was not asked to. See, the actors are not in charge of knowing what's coming down the pipeline, so we can't really ask, like, "Hey, on this show, I want to read for so-and-so."
Oh, okay.
It's not really our call. The studio has our demos on file, and if I get an email saying, "Hey, pick who you want to read for," then I'll pick who I want to read for. But
sure,
like for Baki, I had tried out for Spec and maybe 1 or 2 others that were not the main cast, and that's just par for the course. They want to hear you read on this character, and if they think they want to hear you on something else, they'll let you know. So I never know what's coming until it's too late. It's like, man, I would have loved to have read for that, but they don't reach out for every project, unfortunately.
So this next one is from PK_Flair. I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit to make it more universal. They're asking about online anime conventions and how your experience in participating in them is different compared to doing a traditional con. I don't know if you've done online conventions before this or if this is your first, but how's your experience been?
This is my first.
Oh,
Yeah. So far, great, smooth. You're doing a great job. All the techie stuff and everything's just, it's wonderful. But experience is literally the difference between staying home and schlepping to the airport, spending hours in the air, getting tired from travel, checking into a hotel, getting your schedule, and then sleep adjust for the time zone change.
Oh, goodness.
And then, of course, there's multiple panels and multiple signings. That one-on-one interaction is not the same, although we are connected. We have social media, we have these streaming networks, so people can still connect with one another, and that is important and that is key, especially during a time. I mean, imagine this was 1918 and the original Spanish flu pandemic. You think we have it bad? It's like, I'm bored. I want to go out and walk. I'm tired. I have cabin fever. It's like, you're lucky it's cabin fever.
Yeah.
It could be far worse.
This is probably the first time you've been at a con from your closet, I would assume.
Yes, my walk-in closet, my recording booth space. This is definitely the first and won't be the last. There are more coming down the pipe, which is great. I think the fandom community supports each other in these endeavors. The live stream, of course, Twitch is a fantastic platform that a lot of people in the industry are continuing to connect with their fans, not only through this event, but just in general with their own live stream channels. I have one too here on Twitch. Gohan with your own bad self. That's the name of my channel. Gohan with your own bad self. I hardly ever stream though. I need to get on that. I have a bare bones channel. I have no idea how to set up the sponsor thing and the emojis, and I don't even know how it all works, but I'll figure it out. And I have friends that Twitch stream all the time. It's like, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a terrible gamer, by the way. I button mash and all that. But people say that Twitch is kind of like YouTube in that it doesn't have to be a gaming stream. You could just go on cam and do whatever. Spike Spencer, he does a cooking show, I guess, basically a cooking stream.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
This next one is from Ginga Daichu, I think is how you say that. And their question is, so we've touched on how the recording situation has changed for actors, but moving forward, they're wondering if this will open up more opportunities for actors that maybe before couldn't voice a part because of location.
This is an interesting thing because, for years, indie projects and fan dubs, of course, and things like that, indie games, they've had an international cast because the location didn't matter. As long as you had a high quality recording setup that would, match and sound consistent, you could be like directed over Skype or self-direct on projects and submit your files, your WAV files, because MP3s are too compressed and small, but you want this raw, high quality WAV file. So yeah, I think it can open doors. I don't know, this is a little of the unknown territory right now with where we're going and when society will go back to integrating and becoming somewhat of its old self. It won't be 100% the same anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But up until this pandemic, it definitely mattered where you lived in terms of doing anime dubs. You needed to be where the dubs get recorded. True for Funimation in Texas and true for Los Angeles, the other hotspot for recording things. And LA is the hotspot for voice acting in general. Commercials, anime, cartoons, games. And to a smaller degree, I mean, there's audiobooks, there's corporate narration training stuff, and and everything. So it just depended on your goals. We would tell people, if you want to be a voice actor, first take your acting classes, train and all that. And ultimately you're going to have to decide what is it you want to focus on? It's like a lot of people say, I just want to do anime. It's like, all right, well, I would say, I strongly suggest that you open your mind to doing all types of voice work, which I have been very fortunate into doing all that. And while it's not as cool, I guess, air quotes, as anime or cartoons or games, if you're going to make a living doing this, it takes 110% dedication to it. And before, location was definitely key. Nowadays, I'm not sure if the studios and the casting people would be as open. I think they should. I think there is no reason anymore, now that we've proved that we can record from home, why someone in a longer distance couldn't be involved. Of course, there's always exceptions. Tom Kane recorded Yoda from the Clone Wars, and he lives in Tennessee. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast lives in LA. My Little Pony was recorded in Canada in Tara Strong, who is Canadian but lives in LA. There's always these little exceptions here and there. So hopefully, I mean, I personally hope, because opening up the talent pool is a good thing. The voice acting community is very supportive of one another, and there's room for everyone.
So this next question is from Epic Dude. Very nice name. They're asking that, I'm misspeaking. They're asking, as the voice of Ryu, do you have a personal favorite game in the Street Fighter franchise?
Well, I tend to play better on Marvel vs. Capcom 3 because it's a little more button mash friendly. I like 4 and 5 pretty much equally. Now, I will say 5 kind of paled in comparison at first, because they started to just piecemeal it together and add all the different modes. So maybe it was released a little bit too early. But ultimately, I think 5 is fantastic. Great roster. Yes, I do play as myself. I'm completely biased that way.
I mean,
and I'm noticing also on the chat room that Ginga Daichu said he meant it more as, will I hear you in a Houston, New York, Canada dub? And the answer is no, probably not. Unless those studios ever reach out to me, because I would consider it. But typically the Vancouver group, Canada sticks with Canadian actors, and America tends to use mostly American, but there are some Canadian exceptions. A lot of Hollywood TV productions do their shows for tax reasons, I guess, in Vancouver. So you get a lot of Canadian actors on American productions. So, but as far as anime dubs, for myself, I don't think I'll ever end up on a Vancouver dub. Houston, probably not, unless they reach out. And same with New York. I want to say I did some very minor stuff on the Pokemon dub a few years back.
Oh.
And then I did Pokemon Origins as Professor Oak a few years ago here with the LA cast. But we'll see.
I'm going to paraphrase this next one a little bit. This is from Boogie Poppy. And they're asking how the dubbing schedules have changed during maybe 10 or 15 years ago as compared to now. Do you find that they're more forgiving, more chaotic? I guess the workload, maybe the deadlines, what you've noticed changing over the years.
Well, technology has made it easier to record. We're able to streamline that, because back when I started on Dragon Ball Z in 2000, we were dubbing to actual physical tape.
Oh, wow.
Broadcast beta. And, you could do one take at a time. And if you blow the take, it would take about like 30 seconds to cue the tape back up. And, since then, for the past 10 plus years, we've been using QuickTime files, which you can snap and instantly start over. So we're able to get more lines or loops per hour, and they're called loops, whether it's a scripted line or reaction or whatnot. So whereas in the olden days you would be lucky if you could get 25 or maybe 30 loops an hour, Now you're expected to be able to, the pressure's on, but we can also move at a faster pace, thanks to streamlining the recording process, closer to maybe 75 loops, or maybe some of the people who've been doing this for a while can really race and go like 100 loops an hour or more.
Let me see what we have next on here. The Google Doc is jumping around a lot. This one's from Numba. I didn't know this. It says that you're a Cowboy Bebop fan, and they're asking what your favorite episode is.
Man, I love Mushroom Samba.
That's a good one.
And I'm also partial to the very first one because, that most people start at the beginning. And even though a lot of those episodes are very much self-contained, the first one that really hooked me in was episode 1. And it's like, this is cool. This is the show that you show to your friends who don't watch anime. And then they end up going, I love that show. Same with Full Metal Alchemist. You can show them that. And it's like the story, the characters reach beyond the medium in which it's portrayed.
Oh, a really strange one just showed up.
Okay.
This one is from Spearkin. They're asking what the most bizarre project you've worked on, and they gave an example that I, didn't know this existed and didn't know you worked on, the Desperate Housewives game?
Yes. I was Eva Longoria's character's husband in that game, Carlos. This was like 2008, 2007. Yeah, it's a PC murder mystery whodunit game. I actually saw it on at Target, and I didn't buy it. We don't get free copies of games most of the time, so I don't know if it's a good game per se, but yeah, that's another one of those auditions that came through my agent. It's like, read for this, see if you can do a voice match. And I guess I got close enough to the original actor and went in and recorded with Bob Buchholz, and he's directed a lot of stuff. He most recently has been handling Beastars, which is on Netflix now. I did some small characters on that too. But Desperate Housewives, that was the most out of the left field thing. Absolutely. And I don't think it did well enough to warrant a sequel. But over the course of 2 4-hour sessions.
Wow.
I had a lot of dialogue, and I have no idea if it was all used or not, but it was recorded. Yeah, kind of strange.
That actually reminds me of another question that I had pre-written. It was one of the more stranger roles that I found of you. You had linked to it on your YouTube page.
Yeah.
You played all of the male characters in the XMen Arcade game?
Yeah, not the original in the 90s, but when it came to consoles, Capcom, or who is it? Capcom?
I don't know.
Whoever made the X-Men Arcade game. Yeah, they had remastered graphics and sound effects, but for whatever reason, they wanted to update the audio files, and they wanted to just recast. So I was like, okay. So they hired me to do all the male characters, and Melanie to do all the female characters. So, and there's nothing but little battle type prompts in there, and even the narration is very minuscule. But yes.
So you're never talking to yourself in that game, presumably?
Not really.
Okay.
Go and save the city. Pyro turns you to toast. Welcome to die. Yeah, they honestly didn't have an opinion that it's like, don't worry if they kind of sound the same, it's fine. Like, golly, really?
That compilation is wild.
Yes.
This next question is from Vana. What is it like to go from a fairly loose and lighthearted dub, DBZ as an example, to something much more serious, such as Blue Gender? I'm assuming they mean like if you're working on 2 projects at the same time that are vastly different genres.
Which we were, definitely. Blue Gender is very dark, serious, and very graphic, bloody, violent type show, and I was excited. I welcomed the opportunity to get to work on a project that is like polar opposite, and it's a chance to showcase any of the actors in the cast, since obviously everyone on that show has either been a major or minor part in the Dragon Ball dub, because we're part of the Funimation talent pool in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at the time. So I think, yeah, that was cool. It wasn't intimidating at all. I think it was just exciting, kind of like me taking on just a different role in a show in a similar vein as Z, Yu Yu Hakusho. Me playing my first villain is so polar opposite Gohan. So playing Karasu in the Dark Tournament saga, things like that. As a voice actor, I welcome anything. The more extreme, the more opposite from previous roles. That's great. That's great. We're always looking to push forward and challenge ourselves. And yeah, it may not work, but hey, it's better than wondering what if.
So this next question is Mike Toole. He's asking if you got to go to the WreckIt Ralph red carpet premiere, and if you did, what was that like?
I did not. I didn't have any connections. My agent didn't have any connections, although Ruben Langdon managed to get in through a friend of his, I guess, who has better connections. So I felt bad, but I was too busy just being giddy that I got to be on a Disney movie, even though it's just a cameo. But me and Ruben doing our Street Fighter characters, having a line in a Disney film, playing characters that we already established in the game series. It's like, this is so cool. We got through the loophole, because the voice actors in Disney films tend to be the big celebrities, the on-camera types. You can hear some established voice talent, but you have to wait and read the credits and see them in additional voices usually. Although there are some really established. Maurice LaMarche had a credited part in the cast, and which is awesome. I love championing and celebrating anytime I see people I recognize, or just the voice cast talent pool in general, getting a thanks on the credits. I love staying after credits in any movie, because the additional voices, once in a while, they'll actually bother individually crediting the actors, and then I'll go home after watching that movie and I'll give a shout out to them on Twitter. It's like, hey, cool, Steve Bloom and Lex Lang on Force Awakens or Rogue One or all these stuff. It's like, and I'm secretly like super envious. It's like, I want to be a stormtrooper.
This one's been on here for a while. GNA is asking what it was like working on Promare.
Let's see. I had such a small part in that. I did read for that main guy who looks just like Kamina. I even had a callback. I was so close. So close. Maybe it would have been a little too on the nose to actually be that character. It's like, why wouldn't it be Kamina's guy? But and I didn't end up seeing the final film, so I don't know. I hear really good things.
Let's see. Netstrike. This is kind of a spin-off of another question that we've asked, but it's a little more specific. Are there any roles that you have really connected with?
I related to Teen Gohan a lot. He's awkward. He's nerdy. The only aspect I don't relate to him is, he has a full head of hair, and he's like 30 plus years younger, but and muscular. Oh, did I mention that he's also one of the strongest characters? But yeah, playing something that has multiple facets instead of just a one-dimensional good guy or bad guy. It's much more stuff for the actor to chew into when you have different layers. And I believe Gohan has that. I believe there's layers to him you haven't even gotten to see yet, because they keep pulling back. I mean, like, come on, Toei. Come on, Toriyama. Let's do something. Gohan had nothing to do in the Broly movie. They didn't even mention him. It's like, where was he during all this? Was he in the bathroom? I was like, don't tell me he was off studying. I mean, come on. The dude brings it. If they just give him a chance, make Gohan great again.
Oh, jeez. This is from Shweezy Peasy, and this is obviously going to vary based on the length of the project, but they're asking how long a project typically takes.
Well, this answer will disappoint you, but it depends. It depends on the length of the role that the actor is doing. You know, if it's just a minor role, it shows up in one episode, you get done in one session. A session could be 2 hours. It could be 5 minutes.
Oh,
It could
wow.
be 16 hours broken up over multiple sessions, because obviously you're not going to schedule 16 hours. Yeah, you're going to break it up. And usually they're 2-hour blocks, no more than 4.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and at the pace we were working, let's see, say on Dragon Ball Z, we were trying to get about a volume's worth done in one session with each actor, trying to get, at the time they were coming out on VHS, 3 episodes that, and then 3 episodes of DVD. So we were just trying to keep pace with that. And then nowadays, it's the whole Netflix things where they tend to, they want the whole show done and ready to stream. And then there's the other thing. The other new thing is simuldubs and broadcast dubs, trying to get the show out in Japanese and English at the same time, where we record week to week. Like My Hero is done that way. And, whatever the schedule calls for, it will always depend on how much my role plays. I could get done in a day. I could get done in a couple of sessions or a couple of episodes, but we try to take on multiple episodes per session.
This next question, Rainbow Lima Beans. This is more of a for fun question. If you could voice any anime character or cartoon character, who would you voice and why?
Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is my favorite animated character of all time. Looney Tunes is what planted the seed, learning that Mel Blanc, who voiced all those characters, that's what planted a seed that it's like, this is a job? I want to do that. He was basically the reason that voice actors get credited. For many cartoons, for many years, he wasn't. And I think that's a real shame. And, they said, dude, I'm going to walk unless you credit me, basically. So they started crediting him. And, pop culture has celebrated the late and great Mel Blanc through the year. And now Looney Tunes is coming up on HBO Max with, each character, Eric Bauza, Bob Bergen, people, there's multiple people taking on the various Looney Tunes characters. I read for that show, but I didn't get cast. Yeah, so it would have been great, but it would also been a lot of high pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're a voice of a character, and there's multiple voices that have done that character, you're going to be inevitably compared. And, it's like, I love Batman. I would love to be Batman, but people always say, it's all right, but you're no Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Just like, there's some good Jokers, but no one's as good as Mark Hamill. It's like, you're right. These people were chosen for a reason. These people are those characters. So if people want to say Kyle Hebert is the definitive blank, I would say it needs to be a character that hasn't been invented yet. It's like Tom Kenny on SpongeBob. It's like you associate both with one another. They're like synonymous. That's something I would want. I want to be a huge cartoon character that probably isn't out there yet, because the ones that already are, they're well established by the voice talent, and I don't want to take anything away from that.
This next question is to Crazy Dude. We've kind of touched on this a little bit. Do you have a favorite blooper or a particularly funny story from working on a dub?
None that are safe for work.
That is a fair point.
Yeah. I remember Mary McGlynn. I was asking her because she was directing Naruto for many years, and I said, "How come there's not more blooper reels on the bonus features on the disc?" And she said, "You guys are too dirty."
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, Steve Bloom, Crispin Freeman. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are just notorious for. It's like, this is very funny, but I don't want the parent company or the client to think that we're making fun of them, which I think is another, I guess, thing that the clients are like, no blooper reels. Like, we can't help it. We're all gonna, especially because we don't rehearse. in these sessions where we see it for the first time during those sessions when we're recording it, as we record it. And yeah, that opens up a whole can of worms. I don't recall just one in particular. I'll see footage that it'll remind me of a movie quote, or the dialogue reminds me of a movie quote. And then that reminds the director of a movie quote. And then we're sitting here doing quotes of movies and songs.
And then the
I
engineer
do
is
remember
losing
Richard
their mind.
Epcar. Yeah, do what that?
And then the engineer is just pulling their hair out.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, Richard Epcar had his laptop open, recording directing me on a Star Ocean game. And I kept on saying, this line, and then I start singing a line that it reminded me of from a song. And then he had iTunes open. So he would start playing like 5 seconds of the song that I just mentioned. We went back and forth. Sometimes we'll eat before a session or whatnot. And, these microphones are super, super sensitive. They're very expensive. And they catch every nuance. They can hear your blood pumping through your body. They hear your food digest. So you guys have probably heard in this Twitch stream alone, my stomach going, yeah, there's burps, there's farts, there's lots of audio blackmail on basically every actor that has ever walked into a booth.
So I'm going to rephrase this next one because it's something that you presumably wouldn't be able to answer anyway. This is from the Hooded Weeaboo, and they're talking about the new Bleach anime and about whether you'd be coming back as Aizen. But I would more ask, so when a new season of something comes out and you've voiced a character previously, is it usually the case that you're asked back, or have you, obviously, Grappler Baki, you didn't play Hana Yama the next time, but do you typically come back and reprise roles?
I typically do. I didn't get to be Miles Edgeworth in the anime of Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, but I did get to voice a character later in the dub. It turns out that Kyle Phillips, the director, said that during that time, Sony TV had just acquired Funimation, and they had tight production deadlines. And he was so apologetic and so cool. And he apologized to me and Sam Riegel, saying, we totally would have used you guys since we now have the technology to record you long distance. But we had to get it done. So please don't think of it as a slight. And it's like, we didn't want you to do it or any of that. It's like the show just had to get done. So we knew it wasn't personal. Dub changes have happened through the years because maybe one studio in one city has done it. And then for whatever reason, the client goes with another studio. Kind of like with Pokemon Origins. Like, why did they record in the West Coast when they've been doing all their shows through all these years in New York? I have no idea. I don't know if they just wanted a fresh spin, a fresh take. It's all up to the client, of course. So,
oh yeah.
Now I lost myself. Now I have the biggest brain fart. Did I answer the question?
I think you did. Okay. This next one, we've kind of done different variations of it. Psychotic Antagony is asking if you have a favorite anime character that you've voiced.
A personal favorite of mine that I just love doing the voice because he's so cartoony. Again, Looney Tunes throwback. Is Ox King from the Dragon Ball saga. Like, oh boy, because he sounds like Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh yeah. Except he's super derpy. This guy is so huge, but he's just a big lovable teddy bear. And it's like, you look at the size of Ox King and you wonder, where's Chi-Chi's mom? Did he like sit on her? I mean, like, how did this guy become a father? Kind of like Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant does have a kid.
Oh.
But yeah, oh boy, I could talk like this character all the time.
Here's a question that is not necessarily anime. Oh, could be. This is from Spirikin. They're asking, what is your favorite movie of all time?
I'm going to go old school Star Wars, A New Hope. Because I'm old enough to remember before it was even called A New Hope. It was just Star Wars in 1977. I saw it like, I want to say either opening weekend or the weekend after. I saw it in 70 millimeter, super wide, high quality presentation in a theater in Dallas, and I was like 9 years old, I think, or 8. And that transformed my life right there. I didn't collect all the toys because my best friend at the time had all the toys. So I would go over there and we'd, of course, play with the action figures and things. And yeah, that was kind of like the big benchmark that made me a huge sci-fi fan. And that spiraled into watching anime shows before it was called anime. Like you had Star Wars, live action stuff became like the go-to. It's like we wanted to be like Star Wars. And other than that awful holiday special, there was no other Star Wars until The Mandalorian in terms of live action. And Mandalorian's fantastic. Oh my God, it's great. But you had Battlestar Galactica, super cheesy show, but it had effects from the same people that worked on Star Wars. And it's like I'm watching anime shows like Battle of the Planets, which was G-Force, or Gotcha Man in Japan, and he had Star Blazers, things like that. And it's like sci-fi. It all started for me with Star Wars, and Empire Strikes Back is just a perfect movie. Star Wars is a perfect movie in the sense that everything seems magical about it. Yes, it's super hammy and cheesy. The lines, the acting, all the continuity errors, some of the effects are just laughable. It's like, not saying it's perfect in that respect, but when you watch a movie and it just takes you on a journey from beginning to end, and you just feel like you've gotten off the coolest ride ever, that is a movie that did it for me.
Awesome. This next one, Fella Feathers, I think might be how you say that. What is the most cursed line you've ever had to record?
Cursed line?
I guess maybe what's some examples of ridiculous things you've had to say for a job.
Oh my gosh. I should take better notes when I'm recording because I'm sure I've got crazy things.
Let's see.
Man, I hate to let you down, but I can't think of any one line. I mean, there's stuff that I'll snicker at and I'll laugh at because, we're all kind of adult in the session. We'll read a line and think of a double meaning or something that sounds like it totally not the way it's meant. But it's like, why are we cracking up? Because it sounds just wrong. You have Kiba on Naruto saying, I'm going to sneak around with my all fours jutsu and take him from behind. Like, really? Wow. That's okay. I have to say this?
Let's see. Boogie Poppy is asking if you have a favorite part from Dragon Ball Super.
Golly, I got to. I love playing Saiyaman. I know he's considered the Jar Jar Binks of Dragon Ball, but I love any arc that has Gohan and Videl doing the whole Saiyaman stuff. I love that, him working on the movie and his on-screen actor persona. He was, that's fun stuff. I mean, I secretly still hope that Gohan will be able to fight and show his true potential. He always gets squashed before. It's like, oh, come on. But yeah, Saiyaman's my favorite Gohan part of Super.
This is a question from J-Dog. I'm going to reword it because I don't know how to say the character's name. How is your experience working on One Piece been?
Oh, with that, let's see, Capone.
They mentioned one. Is it
Beige?
Yeah, I didn't know how to say it.
I just call him Capone. It's been through the years. One Piece has been one of those things that it's a blip on the radar for me, recording wise. It'll, I always think, okay, it's a one-off character. It's going to be in this one episode and go away. Mm-hmm. 3 years later, it's like, remember this character you did? He comes back. Like, oh, cool. All right, so I'm going to be a mobster, sort of an Al Capone guy. Yeah, I got this sort of thing. It's a wise guy. It's been great. Before Capone, I was King Cobra in the special movie number 8, I guess. and that's the second season of One Piece. I've never started watching One Piece, and now it's guaranteed I never will because it's so many episodes.
Oh yeah.
And people are saying, but the lockdown.
Nope.
Not this convention, but I mean the quarantine. You people cannot argue they don't have the time now. It's like, well, that's true, but I have a backlog of other things I'm more interested in.
Let's see. We are getting close to the end of this panel. It's been great. Do you have anything specifically that you want to plug that you're working on, maybe personal projects?
Golly, I don't think there's anything I can talk about just yet, but just know that I am working on anime. I am working on games. All this stuff will come as soon as maybe this summer and start dropping out throughout the year and everything. As far as personal things that I'm doing, if anyone is interested in having a personalized video shout out, I do them on Cameo. All the details are there. It's basically $30, and I will do a customized shout out. You write the message, and it shows up on my phone on the app, and I record my little video shout out selfie mode, and it gets sent to you. A lot of people like me to just do character voices. It's like, can you wish so-and-so a DBZ narrator voice and read this script, or say something about my boyfriend, or, something like that. So those have been really popular, and I love doing them. So if people are interested, do that. In the coming months, I'm also going to be doing some autograph sessions, some virtual online sessions where people will prepay for prints that are offered, some 8x10 art prints. Cool. And then I'll sign those and get them in the mail, and I will videotape myself signing them and also do a video shout out. So stay tuned to my Twitter feed at Kyle Hebert, and I'll have the details as soon as I can drop them.
That's really cool. We have time for maybe one more.
Okay.
Psychotic Agony is asking, and I don't want to make you pick favorites, but they're asking about favorite convention experiences. Maybe there's a couple conventions that you look forward to returning to every year, or ones that stand out as a particularly fun moment.
I have loved through the years going to Anime Detour. Now they've changed management, so I don't get to go anymore, but I was one of the legacy guests, I guess, that got to go ever since year one. Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I always loved that because the staff there are like family. They're just so wonderful. And they brought wonderful guests out, and the fans have been amazing. That has always been near and dear to my heart. Also, Animazement in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Fantastic convention with lots of Japanese guests. I've also very much loved being a part of Armageddon Expo down under in Australia, New Zealand. Obviously, because Australia, New Zealand. Who's not going to like visiting all the way across the globe? It's like, I haven't gotten to do travel unless these conventions, and I wouldn't get to do conventions unless I got to do this awesome job. And I'm very, very blessed.
That's awesome. That's how I met you originally, was at Anime Detour.
Oh, cool. Yes.
I saw a panel. I don't know if you still do it, but you did a panel on how dubs are produced, and you had congoers come up and speak into a microphone and try to dub anime on the spot.
Yeah. No, I quit doing that, but I just took random clips and wrote wacky dialogue and see if people could match the lip sync to it. And I was never too knowledgeable on how to record it and play it back. Other people would bring like a suitcase full of gear and all that and be able to do that, which was what I wanted to do, but I never did. But people still had fun, coming on up and trying wacky voices and reading these cracked out lines with random clips. Yeah, fun times.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. We had a lot of great questions. I think people had a good time. But unfortunately, it is almost 4:30. Do you have anything that you want to end on? I know that we already had you plug stuff, but if you want to say anything to
I do want to say thank you to the fans around the world, everyone watching this stream and everyone who supports anime, manga, Japanese culture, pop culture, gaming, multimedia, especially through these weird, wacky, scary times of the pandemic. A lot of people are very stressed out, and people in the entertainment industry, we're trying to do our best to keep people have some sort of escape from harsh reality, and sort of try and be a makeshift therapist, as it were, trying to help people remember the positivity out there, the wonderful creative forces, uh, and everything. So thank you for putting this together. Anime Lockdown. I believe this is my first anime convention panel online. I'll be doing others, and I encourage everyone out there to support all of them. If you can attend their Twitch streams or whatnot, and if they're gathering donations for charities or whatnot, donate if you can. And we're going to keep on doing what we're doing and keep the world going.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a break here. I'm going to go right to music and say goodbye to Kyle in private. Veronica Taylor is coming up next. Thank you so much, everybody.